Hello and welcome to the Short Hills Association presentation of Getting to Know the Candidates. I am Jay Morelli, President of the Short Hills Association, and along with Tom Hildner, will moderate the discussion. The format will be as follows. Candidates will give a brief introduction of themselves, and that will be followed with 4 questions that have come from our members and our board. The candidates have been given the questions in advance. Today, we have the pleasure of speaking with Jeff Feld. As a reminder, the primary election date is June 10th. There are 3 candidates running in the Democratic primary and 2 candidates running in the Republican primary. The 2 primary candidates with the most votes in their respective primaries will face off in the November election for 2 seats on the Township Committee. Mail-in ballots are now available. Early voting runs from June 3rd to June 8th. And with that, I'll turn it over to Tom Hildner.
Okay, thank you, Jay. Good afternoon, Jeff. To begin, please take a few minutes and tell us about yourself and why you are running for a seat on the Township Committee.
Good afternoon. My name is Jeff Feld, and I am running in the Democratic primary. First of all, I want to thank the Short Hills Civic Association for hosting this event and allowing candidates to really introduce themselves and to elaborate on their prepared statements that were filed and tap into Millburn. I've lived here with my wife for more than 33 years. And when we moved here, Millburn used to set the gold standard for the whole state. You could put your head on the pillow, knowing that the people who were representing us were taking the best interest of the community at heart. In July 2020, I sold my family business and I started coming to meetings. And I was shocked to discover the gold standard that we used to have, we had lost. And I am running to restore trust and confidence in the local government. If there's a theme for my campaign, is enhancing robust, informed civic participation, which this forum and interview will help us do, increasing transparency, accountability, and adherence to the rule of law. I am a bridge and not a wall to the future. And I think we have to remember what is in this township's DNA, whether it was Chief Justice Vanderbilt, Judge Devois, Judge Moore, and Judge Rothschild. And those were really my objectives. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. The first question I have for you is this. Please identify the 4 most important policy issues facing Millburn Township and tell us when and how the Township Committee should address them.
Well, I'll list them, the issues. I think the first issue, I think almost everyone agrees on, is complying with our affordable housing obligation and defining and educating the community of the difference between prospective need and what we call vacant land adjustment or reasonably developable numbers. There are great differences. The state might say we have a prospective need of more than 1,000 units, but because we are a fully developed community, that number can be reduced. And it's a question of how we do it and educating the community with public input. The second issue we really have to all deal with is flooding. We have to figure out a way to mitigate it, because downtown revitalization hinges upon that. We have to continue to fund the police. On September 2020, when I attended my first Township Committee meeting in person, I was the only one that stood up at 10:20 at night when there was a walk-on resolution to defund the police with Black Lives Matter. I think we have to make sure we have the right manpower, and we're waiting a study that's being done right now by the Township Committee. And I think we have to rely on more technology. And the fourth real issue, policy issue, is how do we fund these 3 other objectives? And I think we need to be focusing on our capital budgeting plans. We need to be looking at I think we need a citizen budget advisory committee to look at the amount of money that's sitting in the bank for the township. We have about $18 million in reserves, and we have about $16 million that's unencumbered. And we need to look at our capital planning. And that I will be discussing a little further in the day. I also think we need a citizen advisory budget committee. This community is well educated. Many people have experience in the financial industry, law. We should be listening to our citizens rather than keeping them outside the decision-making process. There should not be more backroom deals like we experienced in the past. Those are the four most important, what I think, the policy issues. When we had to address it, we had to address it. We should have addressed some of these issues a long time ago. We have to address these issues now.
Thank you. And our second question is, please identify 3 significant policy successes, if any, and 3 significant policy failures, if any, of the Township Committee during the last 2 years, and state the reasons why you describe them as successes or failures.
Right. I would look at the defining date as, let's say, January 1st, 2024, when 2 people who really ran in a nonpartisan campaign won a 1,600 vote margin. And the successes that they brought, and I think we're seeing them now, is increased transparency and robust informed civic participation. We see that with the round 4 affordable housing seminars we're having. We see this with the leaf blower seasonal ban, that we're inviting the community into decision making. Also, on April 22nd, about a week ago, we had our really first capital budget forum, and that was getting more transparency. That's a success. I think our success that we're doing now, we're fighting back on our affordable housing, whether it's in round 4 where we joined the coalition, where we have retained an excellent attorney, Michael Collins, and we're fighting back and raising issues that our planner has met before, bringing about 62 municipalities who have been exempted from the affordable housing obligation, bringing them into the mix. Round 3, we are continuing to fight. That's a whole different issue that I was the only resident that showed up on July 30th, 2021 on short and limited notice, and I've been fighting that whole settlement, how it was done without any public input. I think one success is we restored the second public citizen comment when the new, because of the majority, were won by 1,600 votes. We're continuing to fund the police. I think one thing that we've done successfully, we severed our relationship with our former municipal attorneys, Mariziti Falcon, and I think we have increased civility within the Township Committee. Failures, the round 3 affordable housing whole process. There's no public input. We had to continue to fight that. I think litigating and not mediating a settlement in the Bear Properties downtown SID issues. We should have done that because I think the judges are about to come back. I am representing pro bono the plaintiffs in those cases, but I think we should have mediated and not litigated that matter. The Paper Mill Playhouse funding, the latest round, I believe, and many others believe, that we did not really negotiate a great deal. We did not get a sufficient equity cushion. We only took interest when we add our new debt and the old debt. We do not have an equity cushion. We did not negotiate with the new deal a full recoupment of the amounts that we're lending. Also, I believe, why are we supporting one restaurant when we're in competition with the restaurants that we have downtown? I think that was a mistake. I believe we weaponized and were involved in lawfare around various dissenters. I think we need to investigate whether there's been abuse of power here. And I think we also have delegated too much authority to certain unelected officials, which I hopefully will control through the Charter Commission study. And that, I think, has answered what I think our successes and failures have been.
All right, thank you. Our third question. Flooding remains one of the largest long-term challenges facing the town. The Flood Mitigation Advisory Committee has been working to identify and prioritize potential projects to reduce the likelihood of flooding and to minimize the impact when flooding occurs. What projects, whether identified by the Flood Mitigation Advisory Committee or not, would you propose moving forward with? If you are elected to the Township Committee, what will you do to move those projects forward?
Again, I am not privy to all the projects, but I have a list about 5 things right off the top. And I bring this back because of my business relationship with the city of Orange Township, the development of the reservoir. Step 1 is the Orange Reservoir, because all water flows down from there. We had to deal with the county because of their long-term lease to make sure that waters are released sooner rather than later. Because we had to learn from our mistakes of what happened on September 1st, 2021. Again, I was one of the only candidates at that time in City Hall when the floodgates opened and the meeting stopped. So we had to make a relationship with Orange and the county to make sure about the release of waters and making sure that the flowway of waters, that there's no more logs that clogged and caused a lot of the flooding. 2, we need to make sure that we don't have a situation where a car or a dumpster falls in and blocks the accesses of the water into downtown. I think also based on the capital budget session that we had on April 22nd, I think we need to focus on our sanitary infrastructure and the various pump projects that were presented to the public. Many of these pump projects I did not know because we had to look at the sewer capacity. I also think we need to have more education of what our relationship is to the joint county, where we have a representative who gets an extra stipend, but that helps some of our flooding where the water goes into our sewer system. Also, I believe we need to educate the community about the revised DEP regulations coming about flooding that I don't think a lot of people understand, and I'm not really cognizant of this, of how the flood zones have been expanded and what the new requirements are going forward. As because of the High Center case, I think we need to have a little more expertise about stormwater retention because that's come up an issue in the planning board. And finally, I believe we should maybe thinking about rooftop gardens and more trees along certain flood areas to soak up the moisture. Before we took out a lot of trees, now we're replacing them. But those are just my limited response. But we had to focus on flood mitigation because it ties into revitalization of downtown. And certain areas have historically flooded out, and homeowners and businesses cannot withstand every 2 or 3 years the hardship that they've gone through.
Thank you, Jeff. Our final question is this. The Charter Study Commission referendum vote will occur in the November election. Do you plan to vote for or against the referendum, and why? If the commission is formed, what do you believe its recommendation should be? If you are in favor of changing Millburn's form of government, what form of municipal government would be your preference and why? For example, do you prefer a form of government in which the mayor is elected directly by the voters, or one in which the mayor, as we have now, is chosen by the township committee members? Do you prefer partisan or nonpartisan elections?
I've been an advocate for a charter study commission since my first appearance before the township committee in September 2020. First, we had to become subject to the Faulkner Act. As a basic issue, by becoming subject to the Faulkner Act, we will increase direct sovereign participatory democracy. Right now, residents do not have the right of initiative of referendum. I support an elected mayor. I support, and this is all set forth in my tap into interview, I support ward representations. I support ranked voting. As to the initiative, whether we have partisan versus nonpartisan, I'm leaning to nonpartisan. But if we go nonpartisan, we should understand that we should make sure that our elections are held in November rather than in May, like other municipalities will be having in 2 weeks when they have nonpartisan election. We have that ability. We should take that. But I am advocating for a strong mayor council where our mayor is directly elected by the officials. By having a strong mayor, we will gain control over many unelected quasi-executive officials, which we really do not have accountability of there. By having an elected mayor, we will have a strong executive who will make decisions. Right now, most executive decisions are being delegated to our unelected business administrator, who, to my best of knowledge, is not subject to an annual review, and it's really not accountable to anyone. And that's why I do support a charter study commission to get more control, to give more rights to the individual citizens, to get more control over the executive branch or executive duties of our local government.
All right, thanks, Jeff, for answering our 4 questions. And we'd like to conclude by having you briefly tell us why the voters should support you.
Well, this is a very unique election. As we said before, this is a no county line election. There are sharp distinctions between the platforms, experience, and education of the 3 candidates that are in the Democratic Party. My record speaks for itself. I've appeared starting in September 2020. I ran in the last election, primary election 3 years ago. My adversaries did not debate me. I did not crawl up into a rock and hide. I've been going to every meeting. I'm a local watchdog. I will not be a rubber stamping bobblehead. I believe right now this community is at a very significant crossroads. I bring experience, and I'm different because I am a semi-retired attorney. I ran a business with a family business for 25 years. I've worked with the state on affordable housing. I created regulations. And I'm asking all citizens in this town, if you have the right to vote, if you're an independent, it's not just in the local township meeting, but we're going to have choices in the gubernatorial and state assembly. If you have the right to vote, vote. If you don't vote, you have no right to complain of the decisions that are making to you. And come June 10th, I hope everyone compares and contrasts the records and the qualifications of the 3 candidates, and they vote. And I hope they vote for me, because Millburn is worth fighting for. I am Jeff Feld. I am candidate 3D off the line in this primary. And again, I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to reach out to the community, to change the narrative, and to look at the issues that are affecting us. Thank you.
Jeff, we want to thank you and the other primary candidates for being willing to serve on the Millburn Township Committee and for participating in our candidate interviews. So thank you very much.